Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with Jazz Flautist Gerald Beckett. We spoke with him in May 2020 during the COVID-19 world lockdown about his latest 2020 CD called Mood. He is originally from Beaumont, Texas, and started playing alto sax at the age of 11. As a freshman at the University of North Texas, he switched to playing the flute. He has 6 self-produced CDs, and there is so much more to come. Enjoy.
Oh. Well, hey, man, thanks for taking a minute out. I appreciate it. And I guess my first question to you is, as we've entered into this new world, I'd say around mid-March or whatever, when did you start realizing this big domino was falling and live jazz was going to go away?
When I released my CD, I released it on March 17th. And I think things start happening here on March 16th, because this was the first time I released the CD on my own, under my own label, so to speak, besides being under the Summit label. And I did it through CD Baby. Well, CD Baby closed their warehouse, which meant that my CD never got available on Amazon.
Wow.
And so it can only be got either from my website or through digital platforms. And then Amazon put a freeze on all CD sales, physical copies of CDs. They would not send them out. So that's when I started realizing, things are really starting to change. And I did on March 28th. There's a bookstore here called Bird and Beckett, no relation to me, but they were trying to keep music going by doing Facebook Live concerts where you could only have like 2 people or maybe 3 people at most, and they all had to be, 6 feet or more apart. And things became really real when I used to go do rehearsals, and people didn't want to come to them anymore. That's when things started changing. Nobody wanted to be in the same room with anybody.
Which is totally bizarre. So let's go back in time a little bit here. You're from Texas. Talk to me a little bit about how jazz began for you.
Jazz began for me at a young age. I started playing saxophone in about the 6th grade. And I originally wanted to play the drums. And my mother was saying, nope, no drums in this house. So she came home with a saxophone. And I thought, man, this thing has too many keys. I'll never learn this thing. But I started playing saxophone and played saxophone all the way through college, actually. But there was always music in the house. My parents had a friend, and I'm going to date myself, who used to like 8-track tapes. And he would bring me stacks and stacks of albums to put onto, when you could start making your own 8-track tapes, to put them onto 8-track tapes for him. And so he was a big jazz fan. So I would spend hours and hours and hours and hours and hours recording all this music onto tapes for him. And that's when I started, learning about people. I was, maybe 12 years old, like Dakota Staton and Coleman Hawkins and Duke Ellington, David Fathead Newman, and he's just Wes Montgomery, Jack McDuff, and just on and on and on. So that's when I really started developing an interest in jazz.
Yeah, so talk to me a little bit about kind of your migration finally to, San Francisco and how things kind of started taking off for you.
Well, what I did, I went to, it used to be called North Texas State when I went there, but now it's the University of North Texas. And I was always involved in music there, but I saw all these great players, even during then having a hard time finding continuous work. So I decided to get a degree in business instead, but I stayed within music. And it wasn't until I started, and I picked up the flute when I got out of high school, and I kind of taught myself to play the flute a little bit, but I was still playing saxophone. And then when I moved to San Francisco, I decided I was going to just play flute totally, and I sold my alto saxophone and bought an alto flute. So, but I wanted to come to San Francisco at a very young age. I always wanted to live here. But then when I got here, I started where I lived. There was a place that had jam sessions, like every Sunday and Tuesday. And I would go there religiously. And they had some great players who used to go there. And that's kind of where I started cutting my teeth on playing jazz, hanging around all these great players at this jam session, which at the time was only like about a block away from where I lived.
What do you like best about being a musician?
I think I like being able to try to reach people through music and express whatever you're feeling or going through. You can put it into your music. And I just like creating. I really love creating music. Even during this time, I'm thinking about what I'm going to, and I love recording, and I'm thinking about my next project. What do I want to play on it? Who do I want to have on it with me? Picking out songs, writing songs, thinking about writing songs. And the thing I really love about music is something that you can never, ever complete. You can never conquer it. I mean, you're always learning. Even if you're playing the same piece over and over, there's always something new about it.
We're at a time right now where I know musicians are really, really missing the live stage. And, I mean, it's very strange for all of us. But during this time of quarantine, what have been some good memories of travels and playing with other cats that you've had that kind of kept you optimistic during this time?
Well, I just think that music is like nature. No matter what you do, you're not going to be able to stop it, and it's going to come back, and people are going to find ways to play with each other. I have a friend in France, and she's sent me some videos where there are multiple people playing together and they're called a cappella. And she was telling me how they do that, and then several people get together and you play your part, and then you send it all out, and it sounds like you're all playing together as one. So I think even during this time, people are still going to find a way to get their music out. I think the internet is very, very important now to keep music alive. A lot of people I know are doing lots and lots of live streaming. I think some of the bigger musicians also are doing their own. I think Winton I'm not sure if he's doing a podcast or if he's doing something, but he's talking to groups of people. And you can see who he's talking to. So it's like a live visual podcast. But I think that even during this time, people are going to find a way to make music, either through playing electronically with Music -1 or through Zoom. I don't think Zoom is a good platform to do music like rehearsing together because there's a delay. But I think even with all this that's going on, that music is still going to find its way out there. So people can have access to it. And I think that's the important thing, is that people don't want to play music just to keep it to themselves. They want to share, their talent.
We're going to get to the end of this COVID-19 world that we're in, and we're going to get back to live music at some point. And when we do, what do you hope both the musician and the audience realizes about this time, this absence of live music?
They're going to realize that they really missed seeing live music, because there's nothing. That one little live stream I did on Facebook for Gerald Beckett, and I got to play with a couple of people that were on my CD. And I mean, because jazz is so spontaneous, it was. And you can feel the energy and read the person that you're playing with and feel their energy, and you just can't capture that by being in separate rooms or separate spaces. And I think people will enjoy seeing that chemistry on stage again, because you got to have that. That's the whole purpose of anything that you go see live. Whether it's sports or music, you want to. It's the chemistry and the energy that you get by watching these musicians and other people do what they do. And I think that for us, because you can't capture that. You can't capture that you can't get that feeling from musicians without being in the room with them. When you play something on a recording, you can always go and fix it. When you play something live, it's there and it's gone. You can't go back and say, "Oh man, I wish I would have played that phrase differently." Nope, it's gone.
Everyone has a perception of you, your family, your friends, your fans, but you're the one that's living your life. Who do you think you are?
First of all, I try to be a very nice person to everybody. And I think by doing so, that should come across in my music. But I'm also not satisfied. I practice and I play and I hear my music, and I always think I still want to do something better. It's still not quite like I want it. And I think that is the thing that keeps driving me, because no matter how many CDs I put out, I still feel like that's still not the CD that I'm trying to put out yet. I'm still striving for a better musicianship out of myself.
That's a great answer, man. Hey, Gerald, thank you for taking some time today to talk to Neon Jazz. Stay safe and good luck with the new project.
Oh, well, thanks for calling me,
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in Texas, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Gerald for his time, music, and story. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino on the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.